Welcome to Kung Fu Havoc number 2. Sorry, checking my nose. It's the most important part of my face. It's also the most part that I like the most. Anyway, so, first video. This video is about martial arts because I watch a lot of people's martial art videos, and I want to chime in on some true to life fact. I was actually going to do a martial art video tonight involving actual martial arts in my suit. If you've seen the other videos, if not, please go look at them. But there's no martial arts in them. It's me singing and dancing, or at least singing and squatting and looking kind of crazy. But anyway, this martial art video is true to life. Alright, I've been doing martial arts since I was 7 years old. I'm 47 now. And the one thing that all these videos leave off is the truth. Alright? Fighting works on more than one principle. As you know, I've told you this before, how fighting works on I hit you, you hit me, whoever has the best skill should win the fight. Doesn't always work that way because the hands of fate is an amazing thing. Sorry. I also said, that a lot of teachers aren't teaching you the truth of martial arts. There's something in my goddamn sock. It's not relevant to this video, but I have sensitive feet. And no, I did not come from the Tenderfoot clan. Okay? Oh, no. Me and technology are not friends. Alright, so, yeah, socks are falling apart. Being poor sucks, people, I'm telling you. Okay, so, where was I? Alright, so for one, I strongly believe that no martial art is useless. Alright? Now, I suck at BJJ. It doesn't make it any less useful. But, it's a lot of people who do BJJ, and you're not going to like this video. I'm going to be forward with you. You're not going to like this video. I don't tell lies in my videos. I give you 99.9, and I pray that you guys can accept it. You don't have to accept it. You don't have to like it. But I'm going to tell you facts. The facts of fighting in general. Alright? I learned Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the Army, which is probably not the same Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu you're learning. Your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is either going to be better or going to be worse. Period. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to lie about it. But here's the thing on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is ground fighting. Alright? It's not like Jiu-Jitsu where you stand up and fight. I'm going to phrase that. It's not old school Jiu-Jitsu where you stand up and fight, because old school Jiu-Jitsu also has Judo in it. And for those who don't know Judo, Judo is the ability to throw people around who are bigger than you from a standing position. Alright? Or at least the Judo that I was taught. That probably should be how I should reference martial arts now, and the martial arts that I was taught, instead of specific martial arts, because everybody teaches martial art differently. As I pointed that out, my body mechanics won't work like Master Ennis's body mechanics, because either my younger body was different from his older body, or his older body was either more or less equipped than my younger body. So my moves will never look like his moves, and your moves will never look like mine, even if it's the same exact move. If you're a little bit more linkier than I am, or if you're a little bit more stopped than I am, your body mechanics are going to be a fuck ton different than mine. Which means if I throw a jab this way and you throw a jab this way, it's 9 times out of 10 your jab's not going to look like my jab. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's how our bodies work. We're all looking the same on the outside, and we all have all the same stuff on the inside. But that genetic material is that difference maker that makes us stand out like a purple Asari. Mass Effect reference. Anyway, when you're throwing a punch at someone and they have a glass jaw, 9 times out of 10, they're going to fuck to sleep. If you throw a punch at a person who has a rock solid jaw, you're going to probably break your hand, or their jaw, or both. It does happen. It can happen, and don't let anybody tell you that it can't. So let me explain something to you about fighting, because I haven't been in a real fight since I was like 15. But that does not mean I cannot fight. It just means I've been blessed not to have to tangle with anybody else ever the fuck again. Now, the last fight I truly got in, it wasn't really a fight. It was more like I got hit in the face twice, and I couldn't get out of the seatbelt. And when I got out of the seatbelt and they told me that I was going to go to jail for stealing a car, I just gave them my hands, because I didn't steal a car. And the police officers were really good. And the police officer that got me off busted the house that was next door that was, like, going through some shit. Anyway, so, not counting that, then I haven't been in a real fight since I was 15. And if you count, like, training in the Army, we did pewds and we did GFT, but we didn't really get to fight. We got to train, but there's a small difference between training and fighting, and don't let anybody tell you that that's not the truth. Training is training. You train to see what your skills are, and you pray that your training transitions into fighting when you literally have to throw or receive a punch or a kick, because it's not the same. Training is training. Fighting is real. Understand how that works. When you're in the dojo training, you're not training to hurt your partner. You're training to improve your skills. And one of y'all is going to get better, and one of you will be mediocre or at least able to handle yourself enough. The other guy's just going to have your number every fucking time. But that comes from you not evaluating and self-studying and improving. And I can tell you that because I lost a sparring match to a guy who wouldn't fight me any time after that. We had 3 rounds, and the first 2 rounds he took me down with the same shit, and it took me into the 3rd round to catch that so that I could combat it, and then I took him down 2 times. So then we had the final score breaker, and he won. And everybody in the neighborhood was cheering him on because nobody in the neighborhood could kick my ass, so they wanted one guy to bring me down a notch. But it's funny how the guy who brought me down a notch wouldn't fight me if there wasn't anybody around. So he needed an audience so that it could build his thing. But we also found out later that when my cousin passed, this motherfucker was a big bitch. Even though he might have became an ISK champion according to rumors, but he was still a big bitch. So, I'm sorry. I'm gonna put that shit out there. You never came back to fight me, and you fucking know it. So if you're watching, you were a fucking bitch and a coward, and I don't take that shit back. I mean that shit to the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of my soul. You talk all that shit at the church, but I stood outside and waited for 7 hours, and you never showed up. So you damn sure lost that one, Mr. Champion. Moving on. Now, fighting with martial arts. Alright. There are lots of fights in this world. Lots of fights, alright? When you're fighting with martial arts, generally you're going to be in a cage or you're going to be in a controlled environment for most of the time where you actually get to actually use your martial arts skills. Anybody who's watching this and disagrees with this, fuck you. I'm telling the truth. Period. Now, for those of us who have been blessed to fight and use martial arts in real fights outside of a cage and streets, that's me, alright? I had got jumped on my job. I tell you guys this story, and I was like 17 then, so I guess I made a tiny mistake about a real fight. I got jumped on my job. I don't really count jumping as fighting. I really count that as fucking being attacked by somebody who just decided they needed someone else to help them fight you. Where versus a real fight is where it's one-on-one and all of a sudden, you know, winner take all. So technically, I haven't been in a real fight since I got jumped at 17 years old. And I was working at Kevlar's. And my co-worker, who was a ginger, who watched the whole thing, finally believed that I knew martial arts. Prior to that, he just chomped me off as, you're a Bruce Lee wannabe, etc. Not counting the other white guy who kept calling me Chief all the fucking time. So, here's the thing. Alright, let's get to it now. I'm done telling stories. It's time to break it down with the truth. 1. There are a lot of martial arts that you can use. There's not a lot of martial arts that you can't use, but you have to be taught properly to use them. Now, 2, here's where I piss off all you BJJ guys. Every fucking one of y'all are going to write something down in this comment if you do BJJ. Because if you're going to ask me what's better, MMA or BJJ, I'm going with MMA. Because MMA, there's no limits to what you are learning. And BJJ will be in MMA. MMA won't be in BJJ. Depends on who's teaching you. So, 1, when I was in the Army, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that I learned, I started on my back. Growing up, knowing that if I ever got put on my back, it's a good chance that I'm going to get my ass kicked, or my ass has already been kicked, which is why I'm on my back. Now, granted, in Wing Chun, Wushu, Kung Fu, and various animal styles, there are ground fighting techniques. There's the crab, you know, where you're down on the ground and your blade kicking up, or if somebody's leaping down, Superman punch you, you can catch them with a foot because, you know, gravity is not helping them. It's not helping you much either, but it's not helping them. And if I actually could demonstrate that, I would. But there are a lot of ground techniques that are not BJJ that people who have been taught well can fight on their back without using BJJ. Now, BJJ, on the other hand, is a system of grapples and bellies and side control and top mount and side guard and stuff like that. I did a video on here with my 14-year-old nephew who's bigger than me, and I was teaching him the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that I learned in the Army, and like I said, I suck at that shit. But I am a good street fighter, and I am a great martial artist. Whether you choose to believe it or not, that's on you. I'm not going to come to your house and fight you because you don't believe that I'm a good martial artist. I don't give a damn what you believe. But I don't have anything to gain by lying to you, so I'm going to tell you the truth. When I grabbed my nephew and I pushed his arms to the side and I was elbowing him in his femur, and I told him they didn't teach me that in the Army because I learned that when learning Wing Chun and shit, that if I'm on my back, a femur is a very tender spot to elbow somebody. And if you can back both their arms away and elbow them, the thing about fighting is that it only works when you're fighting someone who is not as good as you. Now, in training, you're both equally good, you know, because you're both training, especially if you're new to BJJ, and there's a lot of crawling and possible teabagging and some other shit that's going on. I, honestly, truly to God, fucking suck at BJJ. But I'm good at fighting and adapting. And this is how fighting works. If you are good at adapting in a fucking fight, you're not going to lose many of them. Not going to win them all, but you're not going to lose many of them, you know. And I don't want cauliflower ear. So I'm not going to get on my back. Fuck that shit. You're going to have to fucking kill me to get me on my back. And I also did videos to show you how you stop someone from putting you on your back and elbowing. And that's also in the video with my nephew. You know, I would have done more, but I didn't want to, like, hurt the boy, and I didn't want to put him through the ringer. And he had other things to do with his life besides deal with his 47-year-old uncle who's a martial artist. You know, and hopefully he learned something so that if he's ever in any of these situations, he can use them to help himself out. Now the thing about that is, you know, we train each other to teach ourselves as well, so that we know where our weaknesses are and our strengths. And if you aren't doing that in a martial arts school, then you probably need to reevaluate, or your teacher may not know as much as they pertain to know. And some people actually know more than their teacher. It just depends on what you studied before you decide to pick up a new art. And I tell you that's why I don't believe in starting everybody from level 1. Alright? Which is another thing in the martial arts system that you kind of have to deal with. When I started taking Taekwondo, Master Ennis asked me, have you ever had Taekwondo before? And I said, no. He said, have you ever had any martial arts before? And I said, yeah, I studied karate for a little while. He said, well, you know, karate and Taekwondo are totally different things. I said, yeah, well, the karate I studied didn't have any katas. It was a freestyle form of karate, which is why I don't like katas, because the first martial art you're exposed to is generally that mental brainwashing that your brain won't let you really release from because it works for you versus learning something new. I couldn't do Tosan, I couldn't do Tungu, I couldn't do Te Reiju or whatever the fuck that shit was called to get belts. I had to do katas. But I could fight, you know, fuck a kata. I could fight. I could go with the best of them. And that wasn't allowed. Because when I was leaving the school, when my money finally ran out, I don't know why this damn thing keeps sliding. But when my money finally ran out, you know, Master Ennis asked me what could I do to improve the school. And before I wrote it down, he said, and don't even think about writing fight for your belts. I said, well, see, that's the only way I'm going to know that I'm good. He said, why does that matter? I said, it matters because when you go home to a white picket fence. I go home to a place where, because of my hair, because of me being mixed, everybody wants to fight me. Also, I'm short, which makes me the biggest target in the area. We can beat up the short guy, you know, and as long as people think they can beat up the short guy, I win because they don't know that the short guy can fight, because dynamite comes in small packages. Light it up like dynamite. Anyway, sorry, shout out to BTS. But the truth of the matter is, with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if you know this shit, and I know this shit, the only way that shit's gonna work is if you can get me on my back. Alright? Because Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is basically a power game about dominance. I'm sorry to all you BJJ people out here that, you know, do BJJ. I'm not knocking your sport. I'm not knocking your art. I'm just telling you the truth. If you can't get me down, if you go for a sprawl, a double leg takedown, single leg takedown, if you don't do a judo throw or something to me, you're not getting me on my back. Your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not going to work against someone that you can't get on the damn ground. And they're not explaining that shit to y'all when they make these fucking videos. Because, you know, if you're starting in whichever judo, you start in a seated position where I sit behind you, Indian in style, and we go for a lock. And then your job as the defender, you're under the lock, so you have to get out of the lock and get behind me and put me in a lock. And we're rolling. Pretty much, we're rolling. So if you can't get out of that lock, if I lock in like a cobra clutch or a sleeper hold, which is a rear neck and choke for those Street Fighter people, you know, if I put you in one of these things that you just can't escape from because my grip is just that damn strong, you're going to choke or you're going to tap. You know, simple as that. You're either going to go to sleep or you're going to tap out. If you fight that way in real life, it's not going to transition that well in the streets. Because no one's going to sit down on their ass and say, alright, let's get in the dominant and the non-dominant position. Alright, that's just not going to happen. Now, in the dojo, in the gym, right on. And you're going to mop the floor at my ass. And, like I said, I'm an honest man. I have had that training. My judo didn't work like that. My judo was taught from a standing position. Grab the waist, grab the lapel, knee a shin or kick to the shin. It's easier to throw somebody off of 1 foot versus 2, especially when they're bigger than you. Somebody's running and they push you, you pull, you twist, you turn. That's the judo that I was taught. Same thing with the jiu-jitsu. But the Brazilian jiu-jitsu that I learned in the army, side control, side mount, arm bar, leg lock, heel hook, I'm not getting you the time to get me on the ground to apply any of that shit. You have to literally knock me the fuck out to put me in that shit. So if you knock me out, then why would you bother putting me in that shit? You see where I'm going with the reality of that. And the reality is, if you're a ground fighter, and the only way you know you can beat me is that you have to get me on the ground. But I know all the ways of stopping you from getting me on the ground. That's kind of not going to help your skills, which goes back to BJJ versus MMA. You want MMA. And MMA does have some BJJ aspects in it. I can't say the same for BJJ because the BJJ that I was taught in the army, I suck at. Which means I probably suck at civilian BJJ just as bad. So, and I'm not going to use that shit. I'm just not a BJJ guy. That's just not for me. I'm sorry if I have offended anybody who does BJJ. But the truth of the matter is, for you to use BJJ successfully, you got to get my ass on the ground. That ain't going to be easy. I ain't gonna say it's impossible, but it ain't gonna be easy. I haven't met anybody in a fucking fight yet that just dropped to the ground and said, alright, let's go. Side mount. That's not gonna happen. I mean, in the dojo, yeah, you know, you might have a challenge or whatever, but in real life, I'm telling you, as sure as my name is James Edward Williams Jr., you are not going to get into a street fight and somebody go, alright, side mount, full mount, wrist guard, top control. No, that shit ain't gonna happen. For that to happen, you're gonna have to tackle me. And if you tackle me and then you establish dominance and put me in an arm lock where you're gonna break my arm or something and make me tap out, in a street fight, nobody's tapping out. That's just gonna be a broken fucking arm. No, because I don't plan on being on the ground that long. No. So if you don't knock me out, that shit ain't working. I'm not saying it's not gonna work for anybody else. If you can get them on the ground, yeah, you can fuck them up. But here's the reality. We're equally matched in strength. We're not equally matched in size. Because I'm pretty sure everybody's bigger than me. Alright? So let's keep that shit real. I'm 120 pounds. Period. Maybe 2% body fat right here. I'm 100 here. Okay. So you can see my squatty body. Alright. I'm 120 pounds. Like I said, 2% body fat, all right here. Alright, so there's no jiggle when I wave. No, none of that shit. So, like I said, I'm 120 pounds. Max. My highest weight was 130 pounds when I was in the army. Depression ate my ass alive. So that's why I'm squatty as fuck. But I'm still in fairly decent shape for a 47-year-old man. So I also have mad fighting experience versus you 20-year-olds. Now, not that you can't get lucky and knock my ass the fuck out. It can happen. Anybody who says they can't get knocked out by somebody younger than them, they're kidding themselves. You know, my reflexes might not be as fast as yours, so it might be easy for you to snuff my shit if you catch me sleeping. The good news on that is I'm generally prepared for a fight regardless, so you probably won't catch me sleeping. The bad news is I need to end that shit quick because I can't be playing with y'all young motherfuckers, and that's where my speed versus your speed is going to be a factor in a fight. Alright? So if I can do that faster than you can, there's a good chance that my Wing Chun is going to beat whatever style you're using. Alright? Not saying that Wing Chun is like my permanent residence, but you know, I used to do Wushu. I couldn't do a lot of the fancy shit. I couldn't do the 360 rotation and kick thing, but that I really wouldn't call that Wushu. I would just call that showing off, or like some Paul Mitchell shit. Because in real life, you're never going to get a chance to nail somebody when you're doing a complete rotation. Because if you're coming at me with that shit, I'm just going to time it. I'm going to time it. As soon as you start your first rotation, it's going to be the last thing you remember doing. Because I'm going to catch you. As soon as you throw that first rotation, I'm going to bear hug you and body slam you. And no, I'm not going to get on top of you and go dominant position. I'm pretty sure if I body slam you, it's probably going to end the fight. Especially if you don't know how to fall properly and you might break both your arms on the fucking way down. Or I'm going to catch you and I'm going to powerbomb you. Sit down powerbomb Batista style. And it'll be your own damn fault because you're trying to do some fancy shit to finish a fight when that will look cool as fuck in the movies. But in real life, your first rotation is the last thing you're going to get the chance to do. Because what if you jump up and start your rotation and I just grab you as soon as you jump up? You know, you have to be prepared for that shit. Because no one's going to let you make a whole 360 or 540 rotation in the air and kick them in the face. No one's going to do that shit. No one. Unless you're getting paid. Like if you're a Hollywood stuntman and you're getting paid to get kicked in the face. Fuck yeah. I'm going to let you do that shit. I'm going to hope to have the medical staff on there just in case you break my fucking neck when you kick me or any damn thing else. But in real life, that shit ain't happening, son. It's just that simple. That shit ain't happening. So you have to understand how real fights work versus TV fights. TV fights are cool. Real fights are fucking bloody and there's no fucking mercy in most of them. That's when you see ghetto fights and kids kick people while they're down just because they have no honor. The kid's already lost, but you want to put the strawberry on the freaking frosting of your sundae, so you want to kick the guy in the face. Good. You proved that you're somebody. No, you're a dick. Guy's already lost the fight. There's no need to kick him while he's down. There's nothing you're going to do but prove that, oh, you're going to make him want to go get a gun and shoot you because you beat the fuck out of him so bad. But if he's a strong fighter, he'll just be like, all right, chalk that up as a loss, keep it moving. And 9 times out of 10, the easiest way to chalk up a loss is to not listen to everybody who's talking shit about you because you lost. Alright? But real fights, man, you know, if you're coming at me and you're going for my legs, boom! And if I don't do that, I'm just going to fucking knee you in the face because you're already right there. So why would you do that? Because here's how this works. In real life, most people try to tackle you and get you to the ground because they know here and here that these bitches ain't that great unless they're on top of you with dead weight where they can just start dropping soup bowls all over your shit, and they're not going to be really good fighters. You know, most ground and pounders, they ground and pound you for a reason. They're not like Randy Randy Couture. They're not like Randy Couture. They're not like Chuck Liddell. They're not like Ken Shamrock. They're not like Tito Ortiz used to be before he changed up his game and became a ground and pounder. You know, because a lot of stand-up fighters, they stand-up fighters for a reason. They got good standing game. Now, you have to understand, when you are in a real fucking situation, it really doesn't matter what you know. It matters at how tough that sumbitch is that you are fighting on the other side. So please take this thing that I have made into consideration before you just ground yourself in one martial art. If Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is your thing, I'm not knocking you. It's not for me. Do I know enough of it? I know enough of it to roll with you. Am I going to lose or tap? It's probably going to happen. No, I'm probably not going to tap, but I'm damn sure going to lose. So, you know, I'm going to roll with you until you hurt my hip. And then we're done, you know. Because I did have a hip replacement. So my rolling with you is probably not the wisest idea versus me and you in a stand-up fight. Me and you in a stand-up fight, I got you dead to rights. because I'm not going to be dumb enough to let you get in close enough to take me down. But if you take me down, I am prepared for that. You know, which you have to be, because if all you know is BJJ, you may have a problem. And the first thing I'm going to tell you is, if all you know and all you're studying is BJJ, get the fuck off your back and go learn boxing. If you're not going to take any other martial art, then go take up boxing. If you're not going to take up boxing, take up wrestling. And Roman Greco and WWE type wrestling, take up all that shit. Because if you don't, and you're just going to rely on BJJ, it's not going to do you any good if you can't get the guy on the ground and establish dominance. So to all you BJJ fans that I just pissed off with that, I am sorry, but I'm telling you the truth. You have to get a person on the ground to use BJJ. Sadly, but true. I learned that when I was in the Army, because I was on the ground, I had a guy who was 6'9", and I could not get this motherfucker off me to save my life. However, me and his penis became really good friends when I foreheaded him in that shit, because he was 6'9". I could not get him off me with the roll shit. It wasn't happening. But I could slide into him with my head and win the fucking fight, which got me in a lot of trouble. I had to do a lot of push-ups. Shout out to him and Drill Sergeant Hayes, Drill Sergeant Amiskwa, and Drill Sergeant Amber. Thank you guys for being in my life and giving me purpose. My name is Dennis Williams Jr. This is Kung Fu Havoc number 2. BC and you.